really cool.
Good
Love
to
it.
have you.
Great to have you.
I'm looking forward to it.
um, cool. Well, we're gonna get started in just a minute here. Give everyone a second. I'm trying to figure out my microphone. It feels a little bit weird. Am I centered? Yeah, you're centered. Okay, we're good. Pull this in a little bit if I can.
Looks like we got a good crew.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll just let some people in. Oh, Rachel did make it, so we got some questions. Rachel, we'll answer her question because she sent it in today. Um, just looking who we got here. Nice. We got the whole crew. What's up, Tori? Matthew, Rachel. Good to see everyone here. Alrighty, what do you say we get this thing started?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
All right. I am probably going to be talking for a while. It looks like everyone is on mute, which is good. And then we'll get into some Q&A after. All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Demand Gen Live. This is your host, Chris Walker. Really excited to be here. And I'm interested today. I was thinking about taking this in a little bit of a different direction. So we normally come in and there's like a couple of different agenda topics, and then we move into questions. But we had a big milestone here at Refine Labs last week where we crossed over 100 talented teammates that are part of this amazing team. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a different episode. And I'm also, I want to get started by just saying thank you to everyone, to the Demand Gen Live community, to all of the podcast listeners, to all of our 55 amazing customers, to the entire team at the company who's doing amazing work, the senior leaders, and Megan Bowen in particular, who's my business partner and has been an absolute powerhouse in getting us to where we need to be and helping us create such an amazing culture and place to work for people. And so wanted to say just thank you to everyone. It's a big milestone for me, and now I'm going to take it in an interesting direction where I'm just gonna, I don't even really know what to call it, but I had some thoughts here about things that I've learned along the way, some stories about some times early on and what happened, and some things that we probably haven't talked about before. So I got some notes here. We'll see where it goes. I'm hoping it's valuable and fun for people. It's probably going to be more of an entrepreneurial, business owner geared episode. And I think just switching it up every once in a while is really cool. So let's give it a shot and see where it goes. So to get it started, I think this can resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people that are listening, is that for a lot of my life, and definitely at the beginning of my career, I felt underestimated. I felt that I didn't get the opportunities that I had earned. I felt that people doubted me. I felt that I was looking for this like shot or opportunity that just never came, right? The promotion that never happened, all the work that I put in that it didn't amount to something. And I think that can resonate with a lot of people. And the thing that I learned is that you can't wait for somebody to give it to you. You got to go out and get it. And that doesn't mean you have to be me and start a podcast at a huge company. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you have to do that, but you need to plan and start to figure out, how am I going to approach this? And while I was working inside of companies, I felt that my skills were underutilized, that my creativity was often suppressed, that the level of innovation and value that I could have brought to the organizations wasn't realized, and that generally my potential, my ability to reach my potential was stunted. And all that I needed to change was my environment. I find it so fascinating that just by making like a small tweak to the conditions of my life and where I work, which for me was just not working for somebody else and then having to go and figure it out on my own. That's what worked for me. It may be different for you. And when I changed the conditions of how it goes, there was a massive unlock of my potential. Like now it's like the ideas, creativity, innovation is just like pouring out of me. And so I feel some level of responsibility and accountability to share the things that I'm learning in hopes that other people can sort of like find this state that I've been able to find for myself, which has been really incredible. And so the first thing I want to talk, bring it back to the beginning of when I started Refine Labs, because I was on a couple podcasts today, and people that have picked up the content somewhere along the way, right, saw that they may have not seen the beginning, right? And then when they asked about how it started, I responded and I said, well, I started my company in 2019, but what a lot of people don't see is I spent about 5-6 years before that setting myself up to actually start a company. And so the work that I did during that period of time that sort of like hides in the shadows that nobody sees, I didn't produce content, stuff like that, creating a couple of different e-commerce companies just because I had the desire to do it, right? It was sort of like the early indicator to me about that I'm drawn to trying to build companies, trying to sell things digitally, trying to just like learn and that type of thing. So there was a lot of effort that went in, probably 5 years of work that set me up where I made a ton of mistakes. Didn't manage in the first company, didn't manage cash flow the right way. The business was rolling, doing 6 figures in revenue. I'm 23 years old, doing 6 figures in revenue. Plus I got my job. And I went out, made a couple of dumb purchases, you know what I mean? Personal purchases. And then had to go and make an inventory buy in China. Didn't have 50 or 100 grand to make the inventory buy, and the company failed. I learned some big lessons early on that I don't make again, right? So now, like, the way that I think about financials and cash flow and things like that are way different because of the way that I scraped my knees early on. And being able to put yourself in those situations where you can learn those things, I think is super important. And whatever that means for you, right? It could be about like trying to figure out how to go down a black diamond in snowboarding. It doesn't have to be business related either, but you're going to have to do things and not be good at them for a while and work through failures to get to where you want to go. And so there's a lot of work up front. And then when I started the company, like there was no grand plan about what it was going to be. Right now, people ask me, and it's literally like a billion times better than I would have planned in my head. A billion. It's so great how this has been turning out. I'm so proud of all the people that work here and what we're all building together. It's amazing. I just play a part in it now. I got 100 people here that are really, really moving the needle, making the difference. But there was no grand plan. So I want to walk through a couple of the things as I reverse engineer and look back, a couple of the key things that I think I did that were meaningful and meant something to me. So the first thing, and I think if you're trying to get a business started, is you need to identify a communication channel directly with your target customer. I don't know how else to say it. Like, this is before I even knew what product we were selling. It's like, I got to figure out how am I going to be able to communicate stuff so that I can put things out. I get attention. I get rapid learnings. I get feedback. I get potential opportunities that come to me. I need to figure out basically marketing, right? and figuring that stuff out. And there was, I don't think I've said this before, but there was literally a time, probably April of 2019, where I saw people like Dave Gerhardt getting tons of engagement on LinkedIn posts. And I said in my head to myself, nobody cares what I have to think about. Nobody cares what I have to say about marketing. Look at all these other people. There's plenty of people talking about marketing. No one cares what I have to say. And I see people in the wild kind of like discreetly saying that to themselves out loud. They don't even realize that they're saying it. And so I'm trying to help. Like, everybody thinks that, and it's not true for anybody. So I just want to be vulnerable there and be like, everybody thinks that at some point, and being able to, and me getting over that changed my life forever. It's crazy to think about if I just let myself not do that. But and then once I moved over it, it's not like it just like switched on and everything's working. Like, figuring out the cadence of how to actually, and the discipline to actually go through and do this on a daily basis. For the first year, I'd love to go back and actually count the posts. It'd be a really tough job for somebody, but I might give it as a project to go back and count out of the first year that I was doing LinkedIn posts, how many days that I posted, because I think it was probably like 363. And there's a tremendous amount of consistency that is really required when you're doing these level of things. Would it have still worked if I did it for 310 days? Probably, but there's a discipline level that carries with you to other areas of the business, right? So if you're going to cut corners over there, do you end up cutting corners in Demand Gen Live? And then like today, 6:45 rolls around. I'm like, I kind of have a stomach ache. I don't want to do this today, right? But it creates discipline in all aspects, how I think about our employee experience, how I think about recruiting and setting goals. So having a level of discipline in that piece where you don't cut corners allows you to not cheat or cut corners in other places. Building that part out was one of the most interesting things, and the mindset that I brought to it, and this is literally, I'll remember this for the rest of my life, is that when I committed to LinkedIn, literally what I said to myself is, I'm going to learn how to use this platform better than anybody else, so that if the CMO of Salesforce needs to figure out how to use LinkedIn, I'm going to know how to do it the best, and they're going to ask for my help. And it's such an interesting mindset. And it's interesting because I created that thought in my mind. And here we are 3 years later, and I arguably understand the platform better than anybody else in the world. Which is another like interesting learning for me of like, if you think about things and you actually believe that you can accomplish them, what you're capable of. The key is believing it. And then also at a more tactical level, less philosophical, understanding to bring in the mindset that I'm gonna understand this better than anybody else to anything is a really interesting mindset, because you're gonna take information from people, right? Like at the beginning, I took information of how like people were telling me don't post on weekends. People were telling me I only post once a day. People were telling us like only do it in this format, use engagement pods, whatever people are telling me, and collecting that, it's insights, right? What people are saying are insights. But when you think I'm going to understand this platform better than anybody else, nothing that someone tells you is a fact. It's an opinion. And then it's your job to understand and test whether or not it's a fact. And it's a mindset that I've brought to almost anything that I care about, especially professionally. And it gives you this superpower of digging underneath the underlying, just not reading the headlines and being like, okay, people are saying that like you shouldn't use hashtags on TikTok. I guess I'm going to stop doing that, which happened a couple of weeks ago. People were saying that. I'm going to figure out for myself whether or not it is. And the data so far for me is like, actually all my posts that have hashtags work better. So, and I'm still not sold on what the answer is, but the key is that I'm focused on trying to figure it out. So going into with a mindset like that creates curiosity, creates sort of like questioning the status quo about what people say is right or wrong, and going out and trying to dig in and figure that out for yourself. There was just a lot of learnings that I think are replicatable that I went through early on inside of LinkedIn that other people could use right now, maybe in a different platform or even a different type of business or something like that. That was a big part. The next thing that I think was really valuable is, I'm going to frame it up as strategy, but if you really dive into it, it's segmentation, which drives product strategy. And so, like, I just watch so many companies, many of them who I've been an employee of before, and many now that I advise or just see from afar, that refuse to narrow in on their target customer to the people that really need the product. And if you look at there's plenty of companies that are started by people that might be smarter than me, that run a marketing agency, and they try and sell to everybody, and they sell commodity stuff. Most people that ask questions on this Zoom that work at professional services companies, the questions are rooted in, my customers think that I'm a commodity. And the reason that your customers think you're a commodity is because you don't segment appropriately, which then leads them to think that you're a commodity, just like any other like accounting firm, or I'm not sure what the other examples are, but there's plenty of them out there. That could have been the same for Refine Labs. And if our customers thought that we were a commodity, the amazing people that work here probably wouldn't have thought about working here, right? And it's crazy how the ecosystem of when you run segmentation, which then drives your product strategy, how that then can impact your employer brand and your recruiting strategy. It's just crazy how all the pieces are interconnected. And so in the segmentation side, just like, and part of, I got into this sort of like LinkedIn thing because they work together. Like, the content that I created on LinkedIn started to drive people in that said, hey, could you come talk with CMOs? Hey, could we have a chat about what you're talking about? Because I think that I could use that for my team. And I would do them for free. And I would go and talk to them. Many of them, I was like, after I talked, okay, this type of person, this type of company is not a good fit for what I'm trying to do. This type of company is a great fit. And all of it is coming to me. I'm not going there, right? So there was some active customer research that I was doing, but there was a lot of what I would call inbound customer insights, because I put out content and then listened to what came back. Because when I started this company, there was no thought that B2B SaaS companies, and when I started this in April 2019, no thought that B2B SaaS companies were going to be our target customer. People think that it's funny when I think that it's funny now that I just said that. Because now looking back, it's so obvious that they're a perfect fit for what we're doing. But that was not the insights, and the customer insights led us there. And it probably took 9 to 12 months to really to validate and figure out who is our target customer, what is the business problem that we solve, and how do we fit into that, which I'm going to collectively call product or strategy. And that was sort of like, maybe we were at 3 employees at that point, right? So we figured out, okay, like, software companies want to buy what we're selling. We kind of have an idea of what we're selling, and we've been able to get a couple of key employees in the company. The next thing is sort of like, that's like initial building the product, right? There's not a lot of scale happening here. We're figuring stuff out. We're probably doing $50K a month in revenue. It's not that much. Then we get into what I think is like sort of the next phase, where in reflection, all that matters at this point is, do you have a good strategy, and can you bring on the right people on your team? It's great. It's just interesting in hindsight to look back at it. And so in early on, before I went to this stage, I made a couple of hiring mistakes. Let's put it that way. I underestimated how much technical knowledge is necessary in order to actually do the job that we have. I didn't have any type of technical working sessions inside of our recruiting process. And I hired a couple people that weren't capable of doing the job. And those sort of like times where I scraped my knees and made a couple of mistakes, that hurts. When you got 3 people and one of them, people can't do their job, that hurts. And also moving someone out of an organization, even at that level, is also very challenging. Luckily, everything went very smoothly, and it was an amazing learning opportunity, which is now, I think, some of the the teammates that we have here know the recruiting process that we have now, which includes a deep technical working session and another like sort of working project. It was a big learning from that point of how we evaluate the right talent. And I think that a lot of people that now join my company very much so appreciate on the way in how the process works, because it gives them a very good sense of, am I capable of doing this job? Do I want to do the work that's in here? Because it's the process is so reflective of what the job is actually like. So that was a good learning on the recruiting side. And then there was a piece where it's just like I'm going to call it setting the foundation for culture. And the culture at that level is very much so created by the behaviors of the founder. And so what I learned is that it's really about what is the example that I set every day, and how do I make decisions, and how do I empower people and create confidence in them that I've learned for myself. It's been really awesome to see some of the people that are on this Zoom from when they joined this company to where they are now, their level of confidence and conviction in their skills relative to when they started. It's just amazing, the journey that people go on here. Something that I'm really proud of. And I think that through osmosis, I'm able to help create some of that. And another couple of pieces through my own behavior, but also getting it down on paper, is the things that I needed in a company when I was an employee of them, and I didn't get. This sort of like I really don't know how to call it. It's like it's like transparent. This ability to have a culture of innovation. It's doing such a disservice to say it that way, but where people feel comfortable saying what we're doing right now isn't great. We should try and do something different, right? Having an ability to be able to try new things. We call it embracing failure here, and it's one of the things that I do a session with people when they join, and I talk through the values of our company, and it's the one that I feel the most passionate about, because I just believe that it's a huge differentiator in how our company operates, which is like, we embrace failure. We either succeed or we learn, which gives people the confidence to say, I'm going to go out and try something. Maybe I don't have explicit permission. I have the right intent, and I'm going to go and try and learn something. And if it doesn't work, I'm not going to be reprimanded against it. And those are cultural things that can be built, where people have confidence that when you say that, they believe it and they can take that action. Or you say it, people don't believe you because you don't demonstrate it in your behavior, and then they don't believe it. And so anyway, I think that setting this level of a foundation at sub 10 people that were here, and then who were hired, who we brought on at that level, were absolutely critical. They're like it's like the foundation and the first floor, you know what I mean? And it's like, if that's not going to work, you're not going to build a 20-story building or whatever we're trying to build. And so those people early on were just so impactful and have grown so much, and it's something that I'm really proud of. People always ask, and I got another LinkedIn message today from a CEO, always ask about our quote unquote recruiting, which is something, a muscle that we've always had, but have really built over the past 9 months, maybe. And shout out to Jessica Williams, our VP of People. She's amazing. She's helped us. Now our people team is really high octane performing. But I want to take a step back and talk through a couple of the details, because we didn't always have this figured out. There was times where we were really struggling, where we had too many customers and we couldn't hire people. And so there's things that I learned and hopefully can try and explain here, which is that the way that you position your company is critically important to the talent that you attract. People always ask me, how do you get the people at your company to post on LinkedIn? There's some people that work here on here. I don't do anything. But because of the way that we market, the way that we position the company, we immediately attract people that either want to do that or already do that because they watch us do it and it's successful, right? So it helps us get customers, and it helps us attract different types of talented people. So how you think about positioning the company and how you think about doing marketing, like if I was a marketer and I didn't own my company and I was thinking about what company do I want to join right now, the easiest way to look is, if you exclude, do I believe in the vision and the product? It's more, let's assume you already have that. It's, how does this company execute marketing right now? If I'm a marketer, I want to go and join the top performing team out there, which gives me the learnings, right? It's an interesting, this would be a little bit of a tangent, but I think that it was a huge advantage for me to work at big companies for the first 5 years of my career. Billion-dollar holdings companies, you get to see, how does a disciplined organization plan? How do they drive 10% gross profit every year? 10% net profit. They were way higher gross profit. How do they drive this level of profitability every year across a portfolio of like 70 different companies? How do they think about product strategy? How do they think about building a business case to actually go out and innovate and build a new product that's going to cost $3 million to build? There were so many interesting learnings, and something that I would offer to people, especially ones that are early on in their career, is that potentially a great route is to take a couple of years and go and work on a high performing team, right? So maybe not the Series A startup or the sexy like Series B startup, but maybe a company that's already established that has a 50-person marketing team, where you can go out and see, what does a top performing, innovative marketing team do that drives revenue, that gets set by the right goals, that has respect across the organization? What does that even look like? So I'd offer that to some people. Getting back onto the recruiting and employer brand side, I think a lot of it also has to do, and this is just my thinking, I literally didn't have a note of it, but it just came to my head, and I think it's important to say. A lot of it comes down to what your current teammates say about working there. What do they think about it, right? And it's a cool driver for me when a lot of the people on our team that are not responsible for recruiting are going and referring and bringing in people because they believe in the mission. They want to bring great people here. And so there's an underlying piece, like just like in dark social for marketing, when your customers are happy and they tell other people, you get more customers. When the people that work in your company are happy and they tell other people, you get more people that want to work at your company. And so everyone's talking about employer brand and marketing and stuff like that, but a lot of it comes down to how do you actually work in practice, and how do people feel when they work there? And I wanted to highlight that. It's funny here. I just wrote down a bunch of notes, and the next note that is up here is funny because it's just in quotes. It says "moving up market," which, if anyone knows, is like it's a buzzword in companies that eventually get to some level of scale, and now they're like, we need to move up market. Let's go and sell to the enterprise. And I don't know. We'll see how things change over time, but it's not the only way to win. Let's put it that way. Just selling bigger deals to bigger companies with the same product is not the only way to win. There's a lot of other ways. You could make your product better and more valuable to the same segment, so you could charge more money. You could make additional innovations so that you have multiple things that you can cross-sell to the same customer. You could think about segmenting your customers, selecting a more perfect fit customer, and then building the product around them, and then charging more money. There are so many other strategic ways to, quote unquote, get more, ARPU, or what people call, average revenue per user or per customer, than just moving up market and selling to enterprise deals. So I'd love to offer that as what people would potentially label as a contrarian view, which a lot of my views get labeled as contrarian, but I think that's just smart, and it's interesting. I think maybe it's just because of me and I'm biased, but I don't view my views as contrarian. I view my thoughts as the things that other people know are true but aren't willing to vocalize. That's it. Thank you. Right? And the reason that I know it is because before I say anything about my opinion, I've already talked to at least 50 people about what they think about the topic. And I'm not communicating my thoughts blindly. I'm synthesizing what other people are already saying, finding patterns, finding why or the holes, or asking more questions, and I'm just communicating that back to you. So I don't think that it's contrarian. I think there's just, I see things from a different angle, which is interesting. And then it's after that, for me, it's thinking about like maybe communicating I'm going to talk through the long-term strategy, and then we'll see if we get back on a couple of things that are in the back of my brain but are not coming to me right now. Is in the long-term strategy of Refine Labs, it's so fascinating because if you look at what I actually talked to several growth equity firms today, and what they would say about my business is that it's a shit business. It's low margin, needs a ton of people to scale, difficult to scale. You end up building a 1,000-person company if you want to have a meaningful business. What they don't see is that nobody else wants to build a service business because everyone thinks it's a shit business. So companies like Gartner, companies like Forrester, companies like even a technology vendor, an attribution vendor, an ABM vendor, anything like that, nobody's going to build a service business against theirs because they're going to go from high margin to low margin. And they have to go from whatever they're doing strategy to a level of execution, which is challenging. But what do you get when you execute across 50 companies at once with a ton of talented people? You get insights that nobody else has. You get data sets that nobody else has. And as we continue to progress through that, what do we get? We spin off innovation, product ideas. We see things at scale, which then fuel product strategy and other innovation, whether that's inside of our own company, or we create spin-off companies. And this is where it starts to get really interesting for the people that work here and for our customers, because I think like all we're doing is surfacing insights and things that we see as patterns for a ton of companies that they're struggling with, holes, gaps in what the technology they use right now, where they're trying to get something done where they can't get it done. So there's just like the long-term view here is to bring tons of smart people together that are working on some of the best companies in the world, some of the most high-profile companies in the world, solving go-to-market challenges with them, getting those insights, being able to innovate on things like our pipe go-to-market framework, which I'm so excited about. It's going to be a game changer for how companies think about go-to-market, how they think about measuring marketing, and how they think about scoring their performance against the rest of the market. the IP warehouse that we're building called the Vault, which is going to be a game-changing product for CMOs and marketing teams to drive better strategy decisions, because right now they get strategy information from anecdotal information from peers, but most often analyst firms or technology vendors that don't execute. There's potentially, I actually let the cat out of the bag today on a podcast, so I might as well bring it here. There's potential software plays that we already have sort of in the back of our minds, which create just like, it sort of goes back into the talent experience part of it and culture. Like, our culture is fueled by innovation, but what drives me is creating opportunities for the people that work here where they can move from one company, one business unit to another business unit, where some people don't want to change jobs because they hate the company that they work for. They just want a different experience. They want to experience in a new industry. They want to try a different role. And a lot of those things aren't available in current companies, or they want to move from being a consultant to being a product marketer for a SaaS company, right? There's so many iterations of how this could work. And through the innovation in building these, we're going to create, I think, a very unique, interesting way for people to go about their careers, where you could come in and you could move 3 or 4 jobs, and all of a sudden, like, came in as a marketing manager, you leave as a CMO 5 to 7 years later. And I truly believe that there are paths like that to grow here, and it's something that really gets me fired up, because it was probably like I never became a CMO officially, but it was I had to jump for a couple companies to get it, but it was a good 5 to 7 years for me to feel like I was ready to start my own company. And so there's a lot of time and growth and learning and things like that are needed to really progress in your career. And I think that we're creating a place where a lot of people could do that. And so I'm going to summarize this real quick on just like how I think about things as a business leader, and the key things, and I think the most important areas for a CEO or someone like me to focus on. Number one, product, and these are in no particular order. I'm just saying them, and so they're all important. Number one, product, which doesn't only include what you deliver to customers, but the customer experience, customer success resources, all of that wrapped together. It's not just your software product; it's the entire experience once people become a customer. There's talent and culture. How do you create the conditions for people to do amazing work? How do you create a space where people feel empowered and valued and confident? And how do you create a space where other people on the outside see the great things that you're doing? There's a lot of great companies out there that do good things, but if nobody knows that those things are happening, they might not have the level of attraction that they could to your business. And then number 3, I have go to market, but honestly, it's really about marketing. At this point in time, if you can execute marketing, the sales happen. It really is true. We got a great team of sellers here, and people that really perform. And the flow of what's happening and the growth trajectory that my company's on. I got we got more funny stories here. I'm not closing this out yet. People at the beginning, maybe in July of 2019, told me, stop posting on LinkedIn. This is never going to work. And what you should do is you should hire a team of SDRs that can call, but you should also have them send like LinkedIn DMs to people. And that'll be the way that you'll grow the company. Can you believe that? And sometimes I've gotten in my life tons of bad advice. I've gotten in my life a lot of good advice too. The key thing is understanding how to distinguish the two. And a lot of it is about having the confidence in your own plan, and then analyzing who are you getting the advice from. And the people that I got that advice from were accomplished people, had sold businesses for more than $20 million. Like, were definitely credible and in the right place to give me that level of advice, but it was right for them when they built their company in 2006, right? And so being able to have the confidence where what people say is an input to what you're doing, but not necessarily the driver, I think is also huge. So to close it out, product, talent and culture, go to market. But for me, really marketing are three places where I'm focused on. I appreciate you all listening to this. I hope it was valuable. I had a lot of fun doing it, so I hope it was. And what do you say we get into some questions?
Let's do it. That was fantastic, Chris. I know I have a lot of questions for you, but I'll save those for another day.
You could ask one to get started if you want.
I will do that. One that's come in. There's a few people have asked if you could clarify the good and bad of kind of being a commodity. Is it good or bad? And then could you break down product strategy a little bit more and how you kind of did that for yourself as well as how you think about that for Refined Labs?
I can't think of a time where being a commodity would be a good thing. Being viewed as a commodity would be a good thing. And how do I say this? So, like, if a customer views you as a commodity, you play on price, right? Water, gas, like commodities. You know what I mean? Gas is going way up right now, but we'll keep that conversation to another day. But the commodities, people are just buying on price. There's no product differentiation. I don't care. I'm trying to buy this piece of plastic. I can get it from 7 different suppliers. Let's put an RFP together and figure out which one can do it for the cheapest, right? You don't want that in your business. That's not a good business to be in. Your margins get squeezed. You can't invest back in people. You can't invest back in hiring great talent. You can't invest back in creating a great experience for people. You can't invest in product development. You get stuck in a shit business. So the way to break out of that as a professional services business or even a software business, right? In crowded categories, a lot of software vendors are viewed as a commodity too. And I would even go as far to say is in a lot of categories, because the market doesn't understand the products that well, that a lot of the market views all of the products inside of the category as a commodity because no vendor has gone out there and marketed appropriately to teach people as to why they're different or why they deserve not to be viewed as a commodity. And so you gotta break out of being a commodity because you're just gonna get price pressure and you're gonna have a really difficult time selling and sustaining the business. And the way that I've been able to do that throughout my career, this is not the first time, not my first rodeo at Refined Labs, throughout my career, by segmenting customers, doing qualitative research, which facilitates segmentation, and then in the process figuring out where are the gaps and what is the repeated problem set that I'm hearing from people, and who exactly are the people that have this problem that I repeatedly hear about. It's a top of mind issue for people. There's no real solution, and I know exactly who they are. Not they work at companies that are 50 to 200 employees in this industry, that I know exactly who they are based on their what's in their CRM data. I know who they are based on I remember back in the day, like I had gone through enough like Salesforce instances to know that the people that run LinkedIn paid lead gen for gated content, and then you look at the leads, they win 1 out of 1,000 leads they collect in those ways. I'd done enough, like 7 or 8 different analyses. The numbers were like between 0.08% and like 0.16%, with the average converging on about 0.1. And I could literally be like these things win at 0.1%. If you want to go and look at your CRM, here's how you would do it. And then a couple people, CMOs or RevOps people, took me up on it, looked at the data, saw that it was 0.1, became our customer. Because I knew so deeply about exactly what I would see in their data. That's not something that you get in Zoom info. Those are insights that you get by spending a lot of time deep in customers, understanding why you win. So there's a whole level of strategy of qualitative insights, deep segmentation, which allows you to get in. They call it a wedge, right? How do you create a wedge where you have a specific set of customers that need what you're selling, where it's highly differentiated, and there are not a lot of other alternatives, and then you win there, which is what we did. And then as you win, Then you start adding in. We got now other products. Maybe we start expanding markets. Maybe we start thinking about marching up market a little bit. As you start to build, you create more flexibility. But at the beginning, making the choices on exactly who you're going after, specific, has been something I've done in like 5 or 6 companies in a row as a product manager, product marketer, and now CEO. And I think it's just a massively underutilized strategy.
Thanks, Chris, for that. Appreciate it. Matt, I'm going to bring you on. You had a great question. And then meet you.
Yeah, I think this fits well with what you were just talking about. You attract the best employees because you've got the right ideas, you've got great culture. You don't want to have them then handed off and working with bad clients. And so I think my question is, to what degree are the clients that you're working with Refined Labs already differentiated and segmented appropriately when they come to you, versus how much of that is your part of the strategy? I think we've all run into clients, but well, I'm on the agency side. We've niched down our agency to focus on a segment, but they come to us and say, hey, you got great ideas, we want to do it your way, but we're different. We need to talk to a general audience. And do you take the money? They say, we got the budget, we'll hire you. Do you take the money, or do you say, no, you're not a good fit for us because you don't really get it? And then I don't know, versus do you say, well, we're going to differentiate if you come on board here, that's part of our process? How much comes before and how much is part of what you do with them?
Yeah, I'd be lying to you to say that all the customers that come in here on day one have a picture perfect strategy and are totally aligned with the way that we see the world. That's not true. I think that we've made big strides. I think that we're getting much better at where we are from compared to just 6 months ago to now. A couple of things that we've done is that the amount of resources that go into a project, people that work here, create and which then drive the cost of what we deliver and the results that we deliver, basically pushes only companies that are at a place where they have product market fit and are ready to scale to become our customer. Because if you didn't have those things, then you wouldn't be ready to pay what we're charging, right? So we're at a different tier. When we were priced lower, we got companies that were seed or Series A but had 20 employees because we were priced at $8K a month, and we delivered an entirely different thing back then. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to think as we evolve the messaging that I'm playing around with, because go to market as a service, is that we're adapting what we do all the time, how we deliver it, what type of analytics we have built in, who's actually on the project, what are the deliverables and why. Through the way that we operate with so many companies, we get such feedback on what's working right now, why is it working, how can we operationalize that and roll that out to everybody. There's an as a service element that a lot of other service businesses don't have, right? They just are focused on how do I keep doing this one thing and make it more profitable over time. We're very much different, which is we're trying to drive the best results, and then how do we fit everything in? And then when you think about how we're going to help our customers with this element, which I just break it into strategy and execution, pretty fair line here of who are we going after? How are we positioned? Why do we win? How do we understand the market, right? There's a strategy element, and then there's an execution element. Execution. How are we going to set up our Salesforce instance? How are we going to think about how we measure and report on the effectiveness of marketing? How are we going to think about attribution? How are we going to think about how to execute our $150,000 a month program budget and how that's going to be allocated? Our business at the moment assumes that on the way in, our customer has a lot of the things on the strategy side figured out. You wouldn't have gotten to 30, 50, 100 million ARR by not knowing who you're selling to, right? And then, so that's the assumption that's built in with how we deliver the service right now. And then it's focused on, well, if you were getting X, Y, and Z results back then, with your current strategy, and then you bring us on, which all it's changing is that we're going to spend your marketing dollars and we're going to deploy marketing programs and measure marketing in a much more effective way, then the results on pipeline and revenue should go up, right? And so that's like, regardless of whether the strategy is right or wrong, or how right or wrong it is, when you change the step of like, we're now going to communicate effectively with customers, we're going to stop running high volume lead gen and we're going to focus on generating demand. We're going to focus on the inbound buying experience. We create a great customer experience. All of these micro element, maybe macro elements, all these elements that you put together over a 6 or 9 or 12 month period of time create a meaningful impact on business results. So,
can I ask a follow-up just kind
yeah,
of on
of course.
that?
Yeah.
You've talked about, to marketers, if you're in a place where your leadership doesn't believe in what you want to do, find some place that does. You should work there. I imagine there's an element of that as well. Like, you don't want to take on clients or customers who are going to make you look bad because they don't fully buy in to what you're doing. Refine Labs, I feel like you guys are on the upswing. People are hearing about you. There's got to be people reaching out who are saying, yeah, we just want to do what you do, but they don't really believe it. Do you have red lines? Like, these are the indicators that this is going to go bad, and no matter what we do, this isn't going to be a win for us. And so we'd rather say no to the money in order to get a good customer who's going to actually win.
We have a pretty clear sense about who's going to be successful and what the red flags are to look for, right? So it's so interesting. In most companies, their sales team is not prepared or trained to look for red flags because they don't have enough customers to sell to anyway. So they have to sell to everyone, right? In ours, it's way more focused on, is this customer going to be a good fit for us, and how and why, and how do we set this up to be successful? Are we perfect at it? No way. Are we learning and getting better? Definitely. And we're working on even more so, working on some level of a discovery up front where we spend time analyzing their business data, understanding what their goals are, reverse engineering, are their goals even realistic against the median performance of our already customer base, right? So based on how our customer base performs, are your goals realistic or not against like a 6-month increase in pipeline, right? Because you got some companies that come in and they're like, we do $1 million in pipeline right now, and we need to do 10 million in pipeline in like 6 months, or like yesterday. You know what I mean? Some companies are like, we need to 10x our results yesterday. And it's just like, it's so far from reality and how it works. To get from 1 million to 10 million in pipeline can take 4 to 6 quarters to do it consistently, to create pipeline that you're actually going to win, that maintains the right win rates. You know what I mean? Like, if you define pipeline in the right way based on win rates, and then you optimize against that, if the win rates are consistent, that means that the pipeline is going to turn into revenue. And you don't just go from 1 million in pipeline to 10 million, which means you're driving like $2.5 million in net new revenue out of nowhere. It just doesn't happen. And so to summarize, we're not perfect at it, but we know a lot of the things to look for. And then the last thing that I'll say is, again, like, the way that the area that we're in for price, which is not like we're more expensive than the alternative. It's like we're delivering something different than what you're looking for. If you want someone to go waste your money on ads, or if you're looking for someone to go and build you a couple dashboards, go somewhere else and pay them $4K a month, right? Like, if you're ready to scale your go-to-market programs and most likely have to drive a lot of organizational change inside of your company in order to do it, then you can come and work with us. But there's not a lot of other places you're going to get it, and you're going to pay for it. So when I got to a level pretty recently if you do the math on our impact on businesses relative to their business valuation, we drive hundreds of millions of dollars in business value in less than 2 years. And so I feel pretty confident in the price point that we're at.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Good dialogue. Chris, we have the questions backing up. Elizabeth, I'm going to unmute you.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Sorry, I'm stuck in the airport with a layover. Yeah, so Chris, I don't know, Megan, I don't think she's on the call, but
nope.
When I first joined my first live a few weeks back, I had like expressed some general frustrations around the fact that, you know, I'm from the sales organization and I joined a company selling into marketing teams, and we had gone through like a merger acquisition. And so fast forward, I took a lot of what was said or what was suggested to heart. And fast forward, I expressed to my director that I've had a long, like not long, but like under a decade of sales experience where I'm like, it's been successful, but I've also had to put up with a lot of shit, like a lot of expectations. And you have to do this, you have to perform, you have these targets. But when I see that there are certain things that are broken within the marketing sales alignment realm. And so for me, I've always been looking at it from a different perspective. And so I've been sharing with my director that, you know, I want to perhaps transition into marketing or somehow. So fast forward now, she had a chat with her CMO and he's agreed to take me on as his mentee. And 3 weeks ago, our new chief sales officer joined as well. And so I got in front of him and we've been having recurring meetings as well, because he obviously is hearing what I have to say and it's like landing, it's resonating. Okay, we're not doing something right. So what do we do right? And so for me, I think about things like, how are we getting in front of our ideal market, right? And it's very timely, right? So one of the challenges that we're having right now, like you had said, high growth B2B tech companies, for us, that is like, you know, prime for us. Like we need to be in front of them having conversations, but oftentimes we're having conversations when they're like 500, 750, 1,000 employees, and they're pretty early stage, like even like a Series C, but they're ramping fast and they're quickly outgrowing their current processes and their teams and their people and their technology. So the one thing I struggle against is like, how can we serve to cater to that market, knowing that if you're thinking long game, not short term, that like we have to be out there having conversations, giving them value, educating them on the trends, on the things that our customers who are already at the stage where they're aspiring to go have experienced those things, and how do we get them together so that we can create value and the last thing, again, the sales comes, right? It's like you're out there and you're providing. And so for me, selfishly, what I'm thinking about is that I'm almost like done with individual contributor sales, where I'm like, okay, I've been there, I've done that, I've carried the bag, but like, for me, it's like, where can I go next? And I feel like this mentorship opportunity with my CMO is going to give me an opportunity to like be in his ear and be like, hey, do you know what we're feeling out there? Do you know what we're seeing, what we're hearing?
Basically what I did in 2017. I wasn't considered a mentee, but I partnered with the CMO of the company, Lisa Halper, and I learned a ton, and like through influence, really adjusted how that company thought about going to market. So I did the same thing. It was super valuable. It was the jumping off point of my career, actually, if I think about it. So,
and your intro, like really like, it's like you were telling my story. Like, I feel exactly what like you're saying, like nobody could actually see what I was thinking about. Nobody gave me opportunity. And for me, I think it's just like, I think it's inevitable that marketing will always be marketing. Sales will always have its role. But I think with the buyer and experience changing so dramatically, and just how people are educating themselves and like making the decisions to like then put up their hand, I just feel like we're sticking too much to what has been done in the past. We know it's not working.
So is the question about your career move, or is the question about what you could do better as a company? Because I got thoughts on both, I think.
Both.
All right, cool. You mentioned multiple times in your answer about having conversations, right? Which is a very sales-centric and what I call a little bit old way of thinking mindset, where I think that most of the conversations that my prospective buyers are having don't include me, right? So my job is to trigger, stimulate, drive internal conversations and independent buying, right? Because I know that that's how people do it. And so it's how do I create the information that start internal conversations that then work through, and how do I do that on a consistent basis? And so that's one thing to think about. And then you mentioned like, how do I get them at the right time? The critical thing is that, and what we've done is that you need to go and win the whole thing, right? It's not about trying to figure out the time and then market to that company at that right time. Like, it's about winning B2B marketing all overall, and then the people that are like, oh, it's the right time for me, then come, right? So it's a different mindset. And then if you're able to win in one space like B2B marketing, the movement now from B2B marketing to owning B2B go to market for us, it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely in play. And so being able to make that move, because it's almost just like a repositioning. What we're doing right now is go to market. But being able to help even retrain myself, but also to help the market understand the value that we're providing where it crosses over. You mentioned like sales and marketing misalignments. Those are really typically rooted because of low performance from marketing, not sales. Bad metrics and bad marketing metrics and poor marketing performance, which are sort of tied hand in hand sometimes. On the career side, I think this is an awesome opportunity. Great for you to go out and suggest this and get it. Now the thing is about, how do I create a plan that is doable, that can get done, right? You're an established company. There's a lot of probably infrastructure and resources. It's not like you can build it from the ground up, right? And so being able to structure, where am I going to be able to get some wins here? What are those wins going to be? What's the impact of them going to be? How do I build confidence in the organization so that when I want to do my big things, I've already have 6 wins and it starts to make sense, right? Some of the obvious wins that I normally see, figuring out how to get buyers that convert on the website into a meeting with a smart sales representative that can show them the product and tell them whether or not you can solve their business problem, is like the biggest win ever. And it's a connection point between sales and marketing that's usually missing. I just like a lot of our customers at the beginning, when they come into us, don't realize how busted this process is. And then we secret shop them and show them what it's like. Hey, we didn't get an email response on our form submission for 4 days. And now we are driving CFOs and VPs of finance and all these other people, and they're asking for demos, and you're not following up for 4 days, right? So there's little things like that can be quick wins that most often the sales reps appreciate too. Like, I never had I got, like, at that point, because all the marketing had sent before them was webinar leads that never answered them or said, hey, I don't want to talk to you. And then all of a sudden we got a ton of people asking, hey, like, I'd love for your sales rep to come to my hospital and show me this product. I'm interested in it. And then you start, like, reps respond positively to that when you help them hit their targets. So I just talked for a while, see if you got a follow-up, but those are angles on both sides for the company and for you.
The other question I would have is, now, because I'm kind of like building a reputation amongst my team, and they're like looking to me to say, hey, we don't have processes in place right now or channels. And we have Slack channels and we have plenty of those types of channels to be able to parlay or share feedback, but there's no like actual tangible process by which sales can get in the room with marketing and say, okay, this is what we're doing. We're like unpacking the last week or 2 weeks. Everyone's coming with an anecdote or a story that they heard in the field that marketing might not know too much about. And that's why, like, we've decided to do like a marketing sales roundtable on a bi-weekly basis. That's where we're going to start. And some people
why do you think that that's the right thing to do? I'm not questioning you. I'm just curious your rationale.
No, I know. Because there's so much dialogue going on among sales, and then marketing has their own assumptive, beliefs, and nobody is really kind of bringing them all together, putting it out on the table and saying, hey, okay, I didn't know that, or maybe we should have thought about that. Like,
Okay.
I'll give you I'll put it in context. Like, we sponsored one of our customers' first in-person event, right? And I know how you feel about like events or trade shows, etc. But it's like 250 people. It's for our customer Drift. It's their first live event in person since 2019. And I was asked to go and represent our organization. And so when we did the debrief, my marketing field marketer to say, how was the event? We have a list of all the attendees. I want to give it to their SDR team. And then I said, for what? Like, what do you expect the SDR team to do with these contacts that you were at this event that we happened to be at? And so I literally had to go through the entire list and remove everyone that was not our ICP, ones that were existing customers that we already engaged with in a sales cycle or opportunity, etc. And I literally like created an outreach message. And then I said, okay, from 250, there's probably 25 organizations that we could possibly have a conversation about with.
I think I got, I think I've listened to a lot. I've asked a couple questions. I think I got your answer, which based on what you've said so far, I think that it's the approach. I think that what your company needs is someone to fix marketing, and you're looking at it very much from a sales angle. I think that if you start looking at it more from a marketing angle, I think that you'd look at it differently. You'd do different things, and I think you'd make more of an impact. Let me put it that way. You're going to make an impact either way, but I think you'd make more of an impact by approaching it from the more of the marketing angle. So not focused on conversations and those types of things, but more focused on how do I teach my buyers about the things that they need to know that our sales team normally does in a conversation. How do I do that before they're in a conversation with my team? I think that would be just figuring that out would drive massive results for the company if no one's focused on that right now. And then just to make sure that we get to everyone's question, we'll pass this on. But I hope it was great to talk to you, and I hope you have a great flight. Calling in from the airport, super dedication. Let me and looking forward to you coming back in a couple weeks and let me know how it goes.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Good luck getting home. All right, Laura, I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you see me?
Hey, we got you.
Hello, Chris. Thanks so much. The episode's been great so far.
About to get better. Let's do it.
Well, you're going to make me blush. You really threw me off with your last comment, though, with Elizabeth. And you said, like, you have to approach all the things that she was talking about from a marketing angle. What do you mean by that? Why was her approach so different than...
I get. Maybe it didn't come out the right way as I intended. It's when you how do I say this? When I can get there. When I stopped thinking about how is this going to drive sales, I started to drive sales. Because instead of thinking about how do I get someone to a meeting, how do I get this, how do I have more conversations, how do I get feedback from the sales team about the conversations that they're having, when I stop focusing on so much on that part, I get to focus on the customer. And when I focus on the customer, I understand what are the gaps in their knowledge? Where are we not hitting in our messaging? How do I do that at scale? So instead of I'm helping our sales team have a couple of conversations with people that they're going to have a decent conversation with anyway, how do I go out and get the information that they do with those two people and get it to thousands of buyers at once, and not have to? And so that's sort of the difference in the angle. And it's like, it's really hard to explain the philosophy. I'm sure some people will say this when I will resonate with when I say it. It's like, I never think about whether anything that I'm doing in marketing is going to drive revenue. All that I focus on is am I effectively communicating with buyers and prospective customers in ways that they like? And if I'm doing that in the right way, good business strategy paired with great community marketing evangelism is going to drive sales. And you do different things when you maybe thinking about it from a marketing angle wasn't even the right way to say it, right? It's thinking about it more of like I guess marketing, for lack of a better way to say it, but when you think that way, you do different stuff, and so it changes where you focus, it changes how you prioritize, and even what you do inside of those different things, right? A lot of people host a webinar like the one that we're sitting on right now, but they don't do it like we do for a lot of different reasons, right? But most of it comes down to what is the intent of the event. And my intent is here. I love being here. It's almost like it's an activity. It's fun. I like helping people. I love sharing my ideas. I love getting feedback from all of you. I really enjoy doing this. Other people are doing it because they feel like it's a chore, because they want to get the lead list to give to their sales team, because they want to get a catchy title so they can run paid and try and get 500 registrations. And so when you have a different level of intent and a different mindset, I think you do different stuff. Hopefully that clarified, because it's not like Elizabeth is doing anything wrong. It's more so if like it was a big mindset for me when I was in 2016 when I stopped saying, how am I going to help the sales team? And I started saying, how am I going to help my customers? And it just works way better.
I love that. Okay, wait, do you hear me now?
You're in. Yeah, we got you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so my initial question was, before you were talking about how there were different ways of getting more money from your customers, and you touched upon it a little bit, but can we go into more detail about that? I thought that was super interesting.
Definitely. So let's pretend that you are a Series B SaaS company and you sell a product into SMBs. Maybe you started product led. You got this like product led motion. Touch was like more consumer driven thing, but let's just focus on the B2B side. And you got an ACV of like 10K. So people come in, they use the product, and then eventually there's like some level of a sales motion. You get people to 10K. And then you're trying to think about in 9 months, we're going to have to raise our Series C. Our investors are going to want to see a plan where our ACVs can get higher or different things like that. Or maybe they already know that investors are like, you need to raise your ACV. You need to think about going out market. I don't personally know where this comes from, if it's investor driven or whether it's internal driven about this whole like, we got to go up market type of deal. I'm not sure where it originates from, but it's common. And then you got a 10K product and you're like, we got to go and figure out how to sell this product that is working for companies less than 100 employees, but we got to sell it. We got to sell the same product for 100K ACV. So that means we just need to go and sell it to bigger companies. And the disasters that happen after that are pretty interesting to watch, because then they go and sell a product that works for SMBs and they go and try and sell it to 10,000 employee plus companies, and the 10,000 employee plus companies don't want it. It's not the right product. They have other alternatives. They have different requirements. It doesn't work for them. And so you don't, and that's what a lot of companies make the mistake. But before they go and figure out that they don't want the product and they don't buy it, they raise money and then they build it into their financial model. So now all of a sudden they're projecting that they're going to get X amount of enterprise customers at 100K ACV. It's not proven. They're going to find out in 3 months that it doesn't fucking work. And then they're going to be on the hook where they raised money and they don't have a path to do it. It creates a really, really tough situation. And so there are other ways to go about doing this that require a little bit more strategy and potentially a little bit more patience. And so there are other ways, like the most common way that people use is just what I call marching up market, right? So we don't just go 100 employees, 10,000 employees, here we go. You make incremental steps where it used to be less than 100 employees. Now we're in companies that are slightly larger. We updated the product. We figured out that motion. At some level, maybe 500 to 1,000, somewhere in that place, you're going to realize we need to sell differently to these companies, right? Our product-led motion that gets 7 users into a 10K a month ACV or whatever, 10K a year ACV, that motion isn't going to work for these types of companies. We need a different motion, and you're going to find what that point is, and you have to build a new go-to-market strategy to serve those companies. And then you're probably going to hit another breaking point at a larger company and say, now we're going to have to do it again. And so that's the most common marching up market. I think it makes a lot of sense. You innovate on the product and the go-to-market strategy as you go, and you don't build revenue into the plan for a go-to-market strategy that hasn't been proven yet. But some of the other ways that I think is really interesting is that you can figure out how to create more value for your existing customer base. There are OpenView posts about it a lot. I like their perspective on this. They celebrate a lot of companies that don't win in the enterprise. Celebrate a bunch of companies that only sell to SMBs, have great NRR, and build massive businesses. So you don't need to go and sell to 10,000 employee plus companies in order to win. But you could figure out, like, what about these 100 employee companies is unique, and then if what's unique about them, and then is it unique about them only to 100 employees, or is it because, so when this happens to a lot of companies, they sell a horizontal product and they sell it to everybody, so it's not differentiated or unique for anyone, and they keep selling it that way. But if they went and said, oh, like, this customer is the one that's super valuable, has a way higher willingness to pay because we generate so much more value for them because of this reason. And it's not just companies that are 100 employees and above and lower. It's all these companies that fit into this bucket because they have this specific thing. And it completely changes who are we actually selling to and what are we selling. And then when you change that, you change your messaging, you change your product, all of a sudden you're charging 5 times as much for basically the same thing because you focused on who gets the most value and how do I make them realize that this is exactly for them. So there's ways through segmentation and positioning to just adjust the price point for exactly what you're selling. And then you can think about, how do I add more value, whether it's taking a product that's from a feature, which is where a lot of SaaS platforms start, and making it into a platform, and then figuring out, then you could sell to the same customer, but because it's delivering so much more value, you could sell it for a lot more. Or you could think about, how do I build other products that we can cross-sell between these two? So anyway, there's a lot of ways to grow a company other than just driving higher ACVs by targeting larger companies. And honestly, I think that there's that path is not right for a lot of companies. So yeah, some ideas that I've seen, and some of them we're implementing here.
Yeah, those are great. Thanks so much.
Happy to help. Good to have you here.
Thanks,
Thank
Laura.
you.
Chris, you still have a few more in you?
We can go for at least one more. He's going to do one more.
All right. I want to wrap with, let's do this. Rachel had one that she wrote in. I think, why don't we answer that, and I'll tee up one more.
That sounds great, yeah.
She said, do you have any tips for distributing a survey to gain insights from the customer's buying experience? I'd like to keep this type of research separate from the company's brand. Is it okay to send from a personal brand, i.e. yourself?
Yeah. I'm laughing because I'm going to give you this advice, but I'm going to preface it with, I don't know if this is legal, so check before you do it. But what I used to do, and I didn't do this if anyone asked, there was a Zoom info database. I would pull out who were the people that I want to survey. I didn't just take it out of the CRM because the contacts in your CRM are biased by design. If they're in your CRM, there's a bias around them already. It's a biased sample. So I'm going to use a Zoom info or something like that and get a unbiased sample of people that haven't heard of my company, are our customer, have considered being our customer, all in one, random. And then I'm going to drop it into a tool like Qualtrics or something like that. I use Qualtrics instead of SurveyMonkey because of this specific capability. You can put metadata inside of the survey so that I know job title, company, all those things already for the respondents of how they respond based on the email that they click. But the most important thing is that I could send the email from a Qualtrics domain and position it as the blah, blah, blah market research group. And so like it came out as the sender is like, you know, XYZ Market Research Group, which positions it as a third party. Not going to, even if you send it from your own brand, the company brand, you bias the response based on where the survey comes from, who responds. So there's so many ways to think about when companies don't do market research very often, but when they do, oftentimes they introduce biases around the information by how they conduct it. So that would be a potential path. Like I mentioned, check with somebody that knows the law to make sure that you are allowed to do that. But I think that you could be. And then it doesn't need to come from your own personal email address, which is probably going to get a low response rate, if I'm being honest. And instead comes from what looks to be a reputable market research firm, which by the way, I don't think is deceptive. I think that it is, it's a smart way to conduct research for your own company that doesn't bias the responses. Hope that was helpful. But that's
that was helpful for me. That's brilliant. I like that.
Nice.
There's a lot of commentary on the messages about how much they love that. All right, we have one more. Joey, I'm gonna get you unmuted. He's got a question on career. I thought that'd be great to bring full circle. Close this out.
Thanks, Cassidy. Hey, Chris. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Joey.
Thanks for so much for doing this. Learned a lot today. That we touched a bit on career, and I thought I'd ask a question, right? And if you went back to your younger self, and you're 20 years old, you've got 3 solid years of experience in marketing, and a drive to launch your own company one day, right? I'm asking for a friend. What would you do next?
What did you mention? What's the goal? You're 20, you got some experience. What are you trying to accomplish?
So if you went back to your younger self, you've had 3 years of experience already, and one day you're aiming to launch a company one day. And what would you do next? What are the steps you would take?
Yeah, I love it. I in hindsight would do a lot of the things that I did. So in parallel, work for a great company that operates well, that has awesome leadership that you can learn from. At the same time, try and build a company on the side that teaches you sort of like business fundamentals and dynamics in real life. And you got sort of both things going, because you get different experience in both of them, right? Like I didn't get the experience of how to run an Instagram ad or build an Instagram community to drive Shopify sales in my B2B experience. But it certainly helps me now that I figured out how to do that in 2014, 15, 16. But if I was like, oh, I'm going to be a full-on entrepreneur at 20, I would have never learned all the business principles that are the reason why I'm successful now. I wouldn't have worked with Andy Midland, who taught me everything about customer research, which is like the backbone of all of the success that I have, right? I wouldn't have been able to work with Lise Halpern. I wouldn't have been able to see how a Series D company runs their financials, right? Like there are so many interesting levels of experience of just working for companies if you bring the right mindset. And my mindset was always just I think like the CEO when I go into it, and I try and learn everything. Why do people make decisions this way? Why are we reporting on financials this way? Why are we comfortable losing $39 million this year? Right? That's the financial plan, is to lose $39 million. Why are we comfortable with that? And then you start to look and you understand valuations and raising money and why things work like that. And then inside of that, like if we're going to lose $39 million, why are we spending $4 million on our NSM, national like sales meeting? And you start to understand like, oh, like they're investing in it they were a very sales centric business, but they thought that investment was going to be very culture driven and drive better sales results, right? And anything that you're looking at, you can look and say, why do people make decisions this way when people put together a business case to launch a new product and people say no? Why did that happen? So like there are opportunities to learn everywhere in companies if you're looking for them and you're able to get into the right conversations and things like that, that I don't think can be, especially at that age, like pick a place or pick even potentially people that you think are doing it the best that you want to learn from, and then try and go and work for them. So you can really learn. And then on the other side, the starting any type of company and understanding, oh, I need to how do I make an LLC? Oh, now I got to I'm selling more than 6 figures on Amazon. Now I got to figure out how to pay state taxes in Texas and California because I sell so many goods there. What does that mean, right? How do I think about business expenses versus personal expenses and how that impacts my taxes? So how do I think about doing marketing or branding? Like when you start your own business, whether you're selling t-shirts, you're trying to or whatever you're trying to do, literally anything, and you're just one person, you have to learn, and you're trying to do it for real, trying to drive some revenue. You got to learn everything. You end up learning everything about the business, and the thing is that you screw it up a bunch of times. And I'm the thing that I'm most grateful for is that I did that a couple times, because a lot of my screw ups happened there, which then set me up with learnings to help me be successful now. So I would do both those things, but I'm curious, what were you thinking?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's how I got my job. Actually, I was doing that stuff. I had a Shopify store. I was doing a bit of drop shipping. I spent all my Macca's wages. I was McDonald's wages. Yeah, I gotta be careful with the terminology here. Yeah, so I spent all my Macca's wages on advertising online and everything, and I learned everything. So when I finished high school, that's how I got my job initially. And I think that side hustle idea you gave is so important. And I think maybe I can do another one and grow even further. Maybe a more serious kind of business other than a drop shipping one.
Exactly. Yeah. So have it evolve, right? So you learn stuff, right? Drop shipping is a tough, low margin business. It's like a tough business to be in, and it's getting harder every day. And so and that's in 2014. There was you could get things from China that are being sold in the U.S. under brands, and you could buy it for $18 and you can sell it for $80. Right? So, and it was just somebody's going to do it and make money. It's just whether or not it's going to be me or somebody else, right? But over time, because more and more people do it, it brings the price pressure down. It becomes more of a commodity, and it becomes a place where oftentimes people now lose money on those inventory buys, not make money. So a lot of those things are gone. So now it's what's sort of some of the next things, or some of the things that are current.
Recording stopped.
Maybe we hit a limit on the recording. I don't know. It just told me the recording stopped. That's okay. We got the camera here. Yeah, we're good. What was I saying again?
Talking about what the next thing will be.
At this stage, I think what matters more about whether it's the next thing or not is whether you're passionate about it. So it's and the things that I was doing I was passionate about the process, right? Like the products were a gateway for me to be able to do it, but I was selling blankets that got imported from Turkey, right? It's a commodity product. This is the second time, right? The first one I failed for certain reasons, and then I started this one, and all I was focused on is I'm going to not do the things where I screwed up last time. I'm going to focus on products that come from places other than China. I'm going to focus on products that are easily differentiatable, both visually and through specifications or things like that, so I can tell a better story. I can make better margins. I'm going to stop trying to run everything through Amazon, where Amazon takes a 20-25% cut on fees and shipping. I'm going to try and focus more on direct-to-consumer through Shopify, where I can make more money. And then when you focus more on Shopify for direct-to-consumer, then you're I actually need to build a brand. I need to have people that like our website. I need to be able to convert people. I need to start thinking about how to run ads. a lot of things that I didn't think about when I was mainly in the Amazon ecosystem. So yeah, it's just like, and neither of those did I go into it being like, I'm going to make $1 billion and do stuff. It's looking back, it's like, it's tough for me to say that I went in it just to learn, because I probably didn't. But in hindsight, the ROI of those two things, which was a lot of sweat and I made a little bit of money, but nothing meaningful. The ROI of that on those things were massive now, but it took a long time to realize the ROI.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, that pretty much answers it. So thank you so much. That was awesome.
Awesome, man. Great question.
Thanks,
Good to have you here. You're from Australia, yeah?
Yeah. I still tune in when I can
Yeah.
on YouTube. Mainly the clips are awesome, and I follow your TikTok, so keep them coming.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Cool. Great to have
Thanks,
you here.
Chris.
Thanks, Joey, for bringing it home. Chris, any
All
last
right,
thoughts?
everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a fun one for me. I'm gonna try. I don't know. Something's. I can like feel it. Something's pulling me to think about sort of like reinventing the topics or the formats or things that we talk about here to try and like sort of take it to the next level for all of you in different ways. And so I'm hoping to expand more into hiring and talent and culture and things like the side hustle and career stuff, right? And how to building the like personal brand. I talk about that quite a bit on LinkedIn already, and how those things work. But basically, just working on expansion, so that this becomes really an asset for anyone in business. I made a crazy statement today that I thought was awesome. It's that, and I think this is the driver, is why I'm pushing to do it this way, is that the marketers that go on to become business leaders and things like that are because they're business leaders first that happen to do marketing. And so I'm trying to, and then the people that usually don't get there or cap out are the people that do marketing and don't think about the other parts of the business. And it was something that I learned throughout my career, and I thought it was very valuable, because when you start to see the periphery of what else is going on in the company, you have a lot of empathy for how everything is working, and you just think differently. And so I'd love to transfer some of those learnings and knowledge to you over time, because I really do think it'll be a difference maker for some people in here's careers. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. And just again, want to thank everyone. This was a big milestone. We had DGL 100 a couple of weeks ago, and that was an amazing event. Our company just crossed over 100 teammates, which is an amazing milestone, and wanted to share that and express my gratitude. So thank you to everyone that shows up. Love doing this with all of you. Can't wait for next week, and we'll see you then. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Cassidy, for helping out tonight. That was great.
Good seeing everyone.